Hello there, my dear friends. It's good business to see you. In case we haven't met before, I'm Stephen Clements, a writer, a gamer, and an appreciator of big brain activities in general. On this channel, I perform dramatic story readings, I provide role-playing game and movie reviews, and I get to talk to interesting people. On this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Adventure Module HHQ3 Thief's Challenge. Written for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition, the Challenge series provided a dedicated module for the 4 main classes to highlight what made them different and were designed for play by a single player and their dungeon master. This may shock you, but the Thief's Challenge is for thieves, although bards can handle it too, and for characters of level 1 through 6. This module gives a player character thief time to shine, showing off their special skills and earning XP on a solo or side quest from an overarching campaign. These also make good one-shots. Published in 1993, while this is the 3rd entry into the Challenge series, I've never played it, never ran it, and I can't say that I want to, and you're about to find out why. Since the pretty cool, slightly metal front cover is completely irrelevant to the adventure, let's see how the back cover sells it. For years, trade and travel along the river Thadish have been peaceful. Suddenly, a masked renegade, known only as the Gullwing Bandit, has turned the waters of the Thadish into a pirate stream. Who is this bandit? What nefarious plot is he weaving? Not even the local Thieves Guild has been able to unveil the truth. Thief's Challenge is a special Advanced Dungeons & Dragons adventure designed for a dungeon master and one-player character, a thief. It's a perfect break from group play, tailored to the character who's seeking some extra experience. Suited to clever beginners as well as more experienced rogues, Thief's Challenge lets a thief take full advantage of his special talents. Can you unmask the Gullwing Bandit? The reward is great, but beware. Adventure and danger await at every turn of the river. Taking a look at who made this thing, the credits show the author to be one Troy Christensen. In researching him, this guy both impressed me and made me scratch my head at some of his life choices, often at the same time. A role-playing game fan, at 18 he published his own game called Phantasm Adventures, and at 20 he was putting out modules for the Villains and Vigilantes superhero game. One of the driving forces behind Villains and Vigilantes was legendary TSR artist Jeff D., who is a heck of a game designer on his own. A few years later, Christensen was apparently an anime geek so intense that he moved to Japan to learn the language, with his plan being to do that so he could translate anime into English. At the time, older anime fans will remember that anime in the West was pretty hard to come by, so our man had the Nihongo thirst. Problem was, he didn't speak Japanese, so things weren't easy. However, he hooked up with Japanese D&D players, and some really neat stuff happened, because a Japanese company agreed to publish a sequel to his game called Advanced Phantasm Adventures. According to the online sources I saw, it was quite a hit over there, so my guess is that his Japan trip went pretty well. Over the rest of his game design career, Christensen also contributed to Iron Crown's Rollmaster game, Dungeons & Dragons with this module, and also as a contributor to the Castle Guide and the Arms and Equipment Guide. In a bit of niche infamy, he teamed up with Jeff D. again for 2 uber-gory RPG books called Bloodbath and Blood Chant, although the reviews were not kind. Christensen has also put out a few novels of his own. For editor, we have C. Terry Phillips, or just Terry Phillips because that works better in the search engines apparently. Phillips wrote 2 Endless Quest novels, edited this module, and one character he played made a lasting impact on D&D and the best-selling Dragonlance series of novels. If you've read the Dragonlance Chronicles and Legends trilogies, the most memorable character you read about was the tortured wizard Raistlin Majere. In case you didn't know, those original Dragonlance characters were also player characters at one point, and this guy got to play Raistlin. Apparently Phillips's performance was so compelling and unique that it shaped the Raistlin we got throughout the novels and made him the uber-sad evil boy basically all of us wanted to be. Not gonna lie, I'm jealous that he was the one who got to make such an important contribution and not me. But see, role-playing your character, it can be important. According to his LinkedIn, he works full-time jobs elsewhere and doesn't mention TSR, so perhaps only worked with RPGs as a side gig. He also only lists those 2 Endless Quest products, and not this one as an editor in his credits. The unrelated cover art is by Jeff Easley, one of TSR's artistic Golden Age's greats. Our cartographer is again John Knecht. While his work is again easy to read and imaginative, I want to take a moment to talk about the problems with the adventure area itself. But before we get into that, here is your spoiler warning. In case you don't want a 30-plus-year-old module secrets revealed, here's your chance to send it to someone who will run it for you. Better still is that you power through and then take these revelations and troubleshooting tips and run it for other people. The world is short on DMs. The gaming hobby needs you. Back to the map. It's huge. 28 miles on a river through a swamp from the starting town to where most of the action takes place. Speaking of the action, all of it, and as we will see, explicitly dictated by the author, all of it will take place within 10 miles of that stretch of river. Shockingly, most of this map is completely irrelevant to the module. That's not a knock on John Connect. He made good maps in here. It's an issue of writing and editing. In the introduction, Christensen writes this module is best suited to a 3rd level thief, but with tweaks could fit anywhere from 1st to 6th level. This is the first entry to the challenge series that we've looked at that does not allow for running a small group of players through it, as the author doesn't provide recommendations on how to do it, and there are scenes in the module requiring the thief to be alone. It sticks to the intent of making a single player module, and it runs with it, so good on it. The author identifies that this is primarily a mystery module, a story thick with finger pointing and double crosses. There is a plot, and the player character's choices can wildly change who wins and who dies at the end. He emphasizes that the Dungeon Master's role-playing the NPCs is essential, as what they say, don't say, and their actions can give away clues the PC will need and on which his life may depend. This sounds exciting, but to help tamp down expectations, we're about to go 19 pages before we even get to the adventure. To make it to the most interesting part of the module, we're going to have to slog for a long time. Chapter 1, Adventure Background. This gives us an entire page of BS that has nothing to do with the adventure. There's no adventure hook in it. The author really thinks the dimensions of the river locks and barges are important because he takes 2 paragraphs describing them, and he's going to do that again later in the module. There's a lot of world building, history, and dynamics that, as we'll soon see, we don't get to use in this module. So it's a waste of space. It's 13 paragraphs in before a weak adventure hook shows up. But honestly, it sounds like the NPCs can handle it without the player character. The author writes, the Thieves Guilds of Highlock and Whitelock are offering a handsome reward for the unmasking of the pirate. Any man or woman in their ranks who can perform this task is promised great favor and future advancement. That reads to me like the guilds are going to send their own people to do it. So why is the PC here? That doesn't sound like a compelling scenario. In the section titled Starting the Player Character, we are told that it's best that the thief should be from the area, but they also have to be completely ignorant of the thieves and thieves guilds in the area. Now, how do you get a thief from the area that has no idea about the criminal underworld of the area? Christensen writes, if it is impossible for the PC to start in the starting town Whitelock, the DM should concoct a scheme where a 20th level or higher master thief sends a player thief to join the local guild and sends transfer papers with him. What? Have any of you ever conceived of a beginning player character being reassigned like a Denny's store manager being moved regions? In tips for the DM, it is again emphasized that the DM should convey a sense of corruption and mystery, and to keep the player guessing at all times, suspecting that at any moment he may be double-crossed or backstabbed. That kind of mood fits a thief's challenge very well, so I like what he's going for. In the next paragraph, he also spells out that there is no main bad guy in the scenario, so we're going for a shades of gray with multiple bad actors involved, instead of the black and white of clear good guys and bad guys. Over the module, he does succeed at capturing that mood in the NPCs and their goals, but it does rob the adventure of a certain sense of drama. At least it inserts a different sense of drama, albeit one not common in D&D, more commonly found in Vampire and other settings like Shadowrun. The pace of the adventure will be dictated by the player, as his actions will trigger different events depending on where he goes and when. Christensen encourages the DM to not rush the player, and for good reason. Unlike the previous Challenge Series modules, Thief's Challenge does not require the player to recruit NPCs to survive. There are a few NPCs that will work with the player here and there, but they will not stick their necks out too far for the player. Given that the module intends for a single PC to undertake the mission, giving the player the opportunity to think things through and act when they're best prepared is appropriate. However, we're at the end of the 3rd page, and I'm still not clear what the PC is supposed to do and why they would care. Clerics challenge threw a horde of zombies at the player. Fighter's challenge involved the player in an assassination. This, I got nothing besides you're supposed to risk your life to investigate a guy for people who will kill you and who already have the resources to do it themselves. So I'm not feeling it. Chapter 2 describes the module's NPCs, and we've got some oddities in here. The head of one thieves guild, the one who's supposed to hire the PC, is listed as being chaotic good. But her write-up says she intends to use the PC as bait to uncover who is the mysterious pirate, and she cares nothing for the thieves' well-being. To quote the book, in truth, she is setting the PC up to be snuffed out by the pirate, thereby hoping to catch the rogue and end the mystery of his bothersome existence. That's evil. That's not chaotic good. At best, that's amoral. Setting people up to die to advance your interests is evil. Her lieutenant is perfectly capable of doing this investigation herself and will be sent along to make sure the thief does the job, so she'll already be where the action is. She's described as having movement both fluid and dexterous, but she only has a dexterity of 13. It's not bad, but it doesn't deserve that flavor text. Oh, and she'll make sure that the thief knows that she hates them and will try to murder them at some point. So we got that going for us. The Rival Thieves Guild is a showcase of when good halflings go bad, and they are nasty hobbitses. Haughty Miri Soft Touch is memorably described as being fueled by restrained hatred, and she is a wicked viper. Her boss Hap Farfoot is formidable. An experienced deceiver, he knows how to straight-faced manipulate people. And he is, in fact, paying off the government to go after his rival guildmaster. The mayor is deliciously corrupt and has to be bought off to do anything, and even then he probably won't take action against one of his suitors, because he wants to keep the money flowing. He profits from the strife and benefits from the river pirate not being stopped, no matter how much it hurts his own people. Can relate. The honorable and ignorant dwarven captain of the guard doesn't even get a level, and that river pirate everybody is bothered about, he is a terrorist provocateur intent on reclaiming his family's lost power. By the end of the chapter, we find out that there are only 2 trustworthy NPCs in the entire module, and overall, the long write-ups we get portray characters with distinct personalities, deep personal scars, and grand ambitions. Christensen did an outstanding job of giving the DM material to work with. And now we come to the most frustrating part of the module, and that's saying something. Chapter 3, Places of Interest. As we see on the map, we have all kinds of places we could go, from the Great Sea to the Highlands, the Gullwing Hills, towering mountains, something called the Pass of Durindin, and beyond to the Desert of Nesh. It all looks so cool, and that maybe this adventure is going to be the epic where we have to explore and survive challenges at all those places. I am sad to tell you, none of that map's promises come true. We're going to be stuck in a swamp the entire time. That is where the entire adventure is going to take place. But Stephen, my dear friend, you might be asking, what about all those other places on the map you showed me? Surely if they took the trouble to put it on the map, it's going to come up, right? No. And we're about to find out why. The Gullwing Hills flavor text sounds challenging, mentioning bands of orcs, goblins, and giants. Perhaps they fit into the adventure somehow. Not only does it not figure into the adventure, but the author clearly writes, the DM should emphasize that any adventuring into these lands would end in a most grisly fashion. And should the thief insist on going, the DM should throw so many monsters at him, he runs back to the swamps. Well, that part of the map's a waste. Page 11 is almost completely useless because it describes the highlands and undiscovered lands beyond, the forbidding desert, the mountains and their prospects of certain death, the pass littered with decaying regiments of dead goblinoid corpses, the mining city of Zadarak, ruled by the Duke, and the Amish people of Turtle Bay, as places I as a player would want to go, and then tells us, nope, there's nothing here. No reason to go there. Don't let your player go there. And if they still go there, kill them. What the heck is going on here? Why is this a page full of evocative location descriptions and all the adventure opportunities just spring to mind from reading it, even in this module, if we're not going to use any of it? The challenge series are standalone modules, so there are never going to be more modules published for this area. Even if Christensen thought he was giving us a sandbox we could expand over time, why go out of the way to keep telling us there's nothing to see here? Why even write up these locations and waste the page count? After several entries, he runs out of different ways to block players from going to the places he put on the map and just says, no part of Thief's Challenge will take place here. But you know what we do get? More sweet, smooth lock description. 2 of them. Okay, so that's the region locations, pointless as they are. We also get descriptions of the 2 towns we will actually adventure in, Highlock and Whitelock. Whitelock is the intended starting point of the adventure, but it doesn't get near the love that Highlock gets. Christensen even says Highlock is where most of the adventure takes place. Whitelock gets less than half of the described locations that Highlock does, and they're not as interesting. Highlock gets a nice map, a neat temple write-up, a market with trade routes from the pass of Durandin and Zedarak that just begs for a side quest that we don't get, a barbershop packed with incredibly useful rumors that I doubt any player will get, since taking care of a character's appearance isn't something most players care about. I mean, come on, until 5e charisma was the universal dump stat. Players don't give a damn about their character's cleanliness. There's a store that's both a butcher and a stable that has me incredibly concerned, and a bakery that serves as the object of one of the side quests. The Highlock Bakery is run by a balding little man named Jazz Colgan and his wife. The author describes how amazing just being near the place smells, with the fresh bread baking and mouthwatering pastries they make. He also tells us that 3 years ago, their son went on an expedition into the Gullwing Hills and never came back. Recently, a trapper showed up at their door to give them a package, saying it was their dying son's wish for him to deliver it. Peeling away the wrapper, they found a rather ugly black porcelain hawk inside. I imagine they thanked the man for his troubles and for letting them know to not expect their boy home ever again. And they put the bird in the living room of the apartment they live in above the shop. I found that to be a very touching and sad story. However, I mentioned that this bakery plays into one of the module side quests, and it kind of makes me mad how it happens. You see, one of the NPCs from Chapter 2, he knows that this ugly bird contains secrets, valuable secrets, and he wants it for himself. He'll task the thief with entering into the baker's home and stealing the bird to bring it back to him for a reward. That's right, the player character is supposed to steal the last thing that this poor mourning couple has to remember their dead son by. This module doesn't require that the PC be evil, but stealing the last relic a grieving family has of their dead son is a pretty monstrous thing to do. Shame on you, Troy Christensen, for even putting this in here. We also get a brief description of the swamp, a random encounter table for it, and to put the cherry on top of my frustrations with this chapter, there is a brief description of the River Pirates hideout. A description that refuses to identify where the thing even is. Christensen says it's up to the DM to position the hideout because if they put it on the map, why, the player will see it. Well, gee, wise guy, we didn't need 90% of the map you did give us, and you can't even be bothered to make that 10% complete. Ass! Instead, the DM is told an annoying list of requirements for where it has to be, but then the DM's free to put it wherever they want. Was there really no other solution to keeping the player from seeing the location of the hideout than this? Did they think that this would up the module's replay value, allowing the location to be moved around? How could this one detail make a significant difference in the module? This is the only entry in the challenge series that I hate. It's sloppy, poorly laid out, arbitrarily lazy, and you are really about to see that. Chapter 4, Plot Points. Where to begin in this piece of crap? For comparison, in the other challenge series modules, we get one chapter for the main quest and a separate chapter for side or follow-on quests. Not here. Thief's Challenge gives us every quest, main, side, and adventure conclusion details in a single chapter. To make matters worse, each quest is broken into segments, and those segments are mixed around with one another using no rhyme or reason. So your attention span is under constant assault. I have no idea why anyone would intentionally do this. With that in mind, I'm going to do my best to keep segments of the same adventure together for the purposes of this review. But just note that reading this is far more painful than listening to me talk about it. So there are a lot of plots going on, and in the chapter introduction, we're reminded that the thief shouldn't know anything about the place or its history. Quite why isn't clear. We also get this odd bit of advice. It is recommended that the DM keep all timelines open and free and not close out any plot unless incidents have caused the plot to be unplayable. Do I really need to be told not to end a plot line until a plot line ends? Is that something I need to be told? Anyway, the intended opening act is meeting with the Maul. Head of the Whitelock Thieves Guild, the Maul is the chaotic good NPC eager to sacrifice the player character to advance her cause with a clear conscience. You remember her. Starting in Whitelock, the town we get less detail on, the thief is instructed by the 20th level master thief that sent them here to go to this tavern, sit at a table, and slowly flip 2 copper coins in his hands. That will let the local thieves know he wants to talk, and they'll let him know they're the right person if they approach and flip 2 silver coins in response. The thief is then supposed to say, 2 for 2 is a fair trade, and be answered by, not when coins are involved. This sounds like some neat scene building, but Christensen adds that the DM may want to add in people who give incorrect answers, so we're encouraged to add in false positives. While that could possibly build atmosphere, I'm not sure how many D&D players enjoy wasted time. Eventually, a guild rep will approach and agree to take the thief to meet the guild's boss, who will enter the dim subterranean tunnel room dressed in cloaks and shadows. When she speaks, her voice is a rasping whisper. The module states, the PC will be unable to determine the identity or gender of the guildmaster. Really? How? There's no possible way to tell. Nothing about size, body shape, nothing at all. And there's no magic involved, and frankly, this is an unimportant detail, so fuck off, Christensen. This is BS. So the completely mysterious and unidentifiable good person, who's described again as wanting to use the PC as a sacrificial lamb, tells the thief there's a great reward in it for them to find out who the river pirate is and bring back proof. Oh, and before the super secret ninja will allow the PC go be a meat trap, she wants to prove themselves by committing a robbery in Hylock. Yes, you heard me right. The player has to prove their character is worthy of being a piece of bait by stealing something first. There's standards to being a volunteer human sacrifice. So the only safe way to Hylock is to take a riverboat. And on the first trip upstream, the mall's agent, who follows the PC everywhere but doesn't do a damn thing to help, takes the time to tell the thief that she hates him, which is nice. The river pirate will also show up and raid the boat. Christensen says it's a 4 in 6 chance of a raid whenever the PC's on the river, but at those odds, I just make it happen on the first trip and also to help leave an impression. Since the river pirate rolls in with 20 bandits, fighting back is a bad idea. But the module does say the pirates will simply knock out the PC and leave him there. When traveling the river, there is also a 3 in 8 chance of encountering one of the 2 trustworthy NPCs, the traveling bard Lucy Jans. The module makes a big assumption that the PC will both listen to this rando NPC and tip her to get to play some songs, which is annoying because she's the only source of several rumors that hold critical pieces of the story. The text then goes into swamp exploration to try to find the river pirate hideout. But as I said, we're going to stick with the intended order and not the piss-poor organization we got. Upon arriving in Hylock, the PC may want to get to the trial job of robbing the Gray Street mansion. There's any number of ways a player could case the joint and proceed to the robbery. But the mall did send him with a letter of introduction that provides a cover story for the thief to walk right in and see what there is to take with no problems. I like the challenge presented here, as this is a heist job with a variety of options on things to steal, and each has different gold values, sizes, weights, and factors that may shape which items the thief ultimately decides to steal. Some items are enormous and heavy, but worth a lot of gold. Some items are small and easily pocketed, but of very little value. Some are well hidden and require some sneaking to find. So the challenge is there to match the interest level of the PC. There are obstacles at the mansion, some moving and some stationary. There are guard dogs and bunny rabbits. Illogically, there's only one gate through the perimeter wall onto the grounds, and only one door in and out of the mansion, and only one door in and out of the barracks. What was that? Did I say barracks? Yes. For no known reason, the owner has 12 armed guards and 10 servants on the grounds. Why he has a small military force on hand, I don't know. Because the owner isn't some official, he's just a rich guy. You'd think that the government would care that he has his own gang. I suspect they're simply here to serve as obstacles, just like only having one way in and out of every single part of this place. For 4 pages, we get room descriptions, NPC daily schedules, and more, leading to a side quest with a lot of risks, ample possible rewards, and the thief's timing and stealth skills will be critical. It's pretty neat and deserved its own chapter or section in the module. Now that the player has proven their mettle and stole something from the manor, we're going to get right on with the main quest of finding out who this gull-winged bandit is, right? Wrong. Or at least how Christensen has it envisioned. Because we get a lot of material not related to the main quest at all. And that I'm pretty sure most players won't even think to investigate. Immediately after the heist job, we get text saying that at some point, though it doesn't say right now, and we're not told when, the mall's agent with the PC will boil over with resentment and challenge the thief to a rob-off. That's what I said, a rob-off, a robbery contest. The two have to go into the same mansion she refused to go near when the PC had to rob it and come back out with one item. Whoever brings back the most expensive item wins. While I like the idea of a rob-off, because that sounds pretty neat and very in keeping with Thief's challenge, I don't get why she insists that it has to happen in the manner that she refused to go near when the PC had to go into it, and she doesn't pick a place where the PC doesn't already know what all's in there and will know what the most valuable things to steal are. Why not rob someplace the thief hasn't already been into so it's an equal match? This is dumb. There are several sections on political intrigues going on in Hylock. These involve the local thieves guild run by them evil halflings, corrupt town guards and officials, and more. There's opportunities to play into the plots, foil them, work your way into them, place bribes, reveal traitors, and become the lieutenant of the Hylock Thieves Guild. Or to straight up get murdered for being in the wrong place at the wrong time or saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. This really deserved its own chapter, because while it's good stuff, the organization is so bad I hated reading it, and I couldn't imagine running this material without re-editing the book myself. Again, the predicates to become involved in these intrigues don't strike me as things a normal player would do. So there's a logic problem in connecting the player with the material. We also get a dislocated write-up on the owner of a magic shop, who's the quest giver that wants the PC to steal the porcelain falcon from the morning bakers in Whitelock. This sage also has a bunch of critically important clues to the thief's chances of succeeding in the main quest, but they are hidden behind a demand for a 100 gold piece payment to give out tips. What low-level PC in their right mind would pay some rando 100 gold for information they don't know will be useful? Why would the PC even think to ask the sage for this info? You know how many times one of my players have gone to a sage on purpose? None. That's how many. I wouldn't lock these critical brain teaser hints that the sage has to offer behind a paywall, or at least I would make sure that the player knew that this guy had some really critical information. And since we keep running into this issue of players not normally doing this kind of behavior, I would make sure as DM, if I were to be running this thing, to let my player know it is important that you pump everybody that you meet for information, because you never know who's going to have the critical piece of the puzzle. The thief may also stumble onto the river pirate himself while he's masquerading as a drunk bum in town, because there is a tiny clue the PC probably won't notice or know the significance of that could be revealed. Revealed, that is, only if the player character intentionally talks to a bum that's drunk for more than 10 minutes. What are the chances any player wants to talk to a drunk bum NPC, let alone for an extended period of time? To fix this, the bum should happen to the PC, not the other way around. It is a neat encounter for attentive players that like to piece together clues, so it might be worth saving if you run it. With the side quests covered, we'll circle back to nearly the beginning of the chapter where the module covers scouting the swamp. In the first paragraph, Christensen gives us every reason the thief will not want to explore the swamp, and then tells us it's the only way to finish the adventure. During the PC's completely pointless exploration of the swamp, which I'll tell you why it's pointless in a moment, he will encounter the only other trustworthy NPC in the module, a wild man named Hawks. The text makes clear that Hawks, who has absolutely no social skills, will only help if the thief is 100% honest in answering his questions and gives the answers Hawks wants to hear. You might be asking, how will this random guy in the swamps know if the thief is being honest? Well, because he has a psionic plot device power to know when the PC is lying to him. Why is this important, you might ask? Because if the PC answers correctly, Hawks will lead him to the pirate hideout. If the PC answers incorrectly, Hawks intentionally gets him lost in the swamp. So what, you might say? The PC can surely cobble together clues provided elsewhere in the adventure and be skillful enough in exploring that they can find the hideout themselves, right? It's the thief's challenge. We're challenging the thief, and the thief can rise to the occasion. Wrong! Absolutely wrong. And why earlier I said the player's explorations will be completely pointless. Skipping from page 20, where we meet Hawks, to page 28, when we finally get the description of the pirate's hideout, the text says finding the place is only possible after Hawks takes them there. That's right. As written, it is impossible for the player to find the objective of the adventure if they answer a single question not to the satisfaction of some rando NPC. No, absolutely not. I am not accepting this. This is terrible adventure design. To fix this, I would insert clues around the swamp. Say, since we know that the river pirate travels in groups of up to 20, maybe more, maybe less, supporting bandits, we could find their marching order, because at no point does it say he uses magic to cover their tracks. and that would be a significant clue. And the PC could interview the barge crews that have been attacked by the bandits and see where along the river did they get attacked, and piece all those clues together to get an idea of where this hideout could be, and then with some lucky investigation rolls, they could find the place themselves. Now, I do like the fact that a major task in this mission is to find a hideout, a secret hideout of some bandits, because that's neat and very much in keeping with the mood of the adventure. But why is this locked behind one jackass NPC when another part of the adventure encouraged the player to be creative in robbing the mansion and come up with their own schemes and their own ideas of how to approach it, how to case the joint, but we can't apply that here? No, we could totally apply that here. Now that we've finally found the hideout, what kind of place is this? Somehow we have a large, ageless willow tree that holds a secret door through which the bandits come and go. The door leads into a trap staircase tunneled through the tree and into the ground, which should kill the tree. And the staircase has a bizarre, unintuitive series of trap stairs leading down. Now, the trap I mention is that certain steps creak, which acts as an alarm. The pattern of which steps creak and which don't is frankly nonsensical, and there's no way that your average bandit's going to keep to the pattern to not set off the alarm. And why would they care? It's their base. They don't care if people know they're coming or not. Somehow, in the stairwell inside of a tree, Christensen expects the thief to be able to hide in the shadows while bandits go right by him and study their descent patterns for 1d6 plus 3 minutes to figure out which steps creak and which don't. For 60 stairs on a spiral staircase where the PC won't be able to see most of the steps. Who did this make sense to? While there's a few more illogical details here, the rest of the hideout is a pretty standard bandit dungeon, complete with bandits. When I first read this, it was from the perspective of most D&D players, thinking the PC is supposed to go through and kill the 20 or so bandits by himself, which is incredibly long odds. When trying to puzzle out that design choice, though, it did occur to me that Christensen didn't intend for the player to murder or hobo their way through the dungeon, but instead to do what the mall asked them to do. Go in and find evidence of the river pirate's identity and bring it back. Simple as. When I looked at it from the perspective of a stealth mission, it made a lot more sense. It will be tough, but if the player gets his timing right and is careful and disciplined and makes his stealth rolls, his chances of being discovered go way down. And perhaps he times it to when the bandits have gone out on a raid, so the place is mostly unmanned. Now that would be smart. Among the treasure and evidence to be found are a series of letters. They make promises to the people the river pirate has been buying off, and they reveal his identity. He is in fact the dispossessed heir to the duchy and rightful ruler of these lands. He is building alliances and committing terrorism to destabilize the region and thereby make a path to reclaiming what is his. With those letters in hand, the thief has an abundance of options on who he chooses to sell it to, because the NPCs in the module each want to get their hands on those letters. I love the multiple outcomes possible, and a really clever and treacherous PC could sell the same material to several different actors. To give a few examples, returning the evidence to the mall grants the PC 3,000 gold, 2,500 XP and personal training from the mall, and the thief displaces the mall's agent that's been following around as her lieutenant, which also results in that agent trying to kill him for overshadowing her. The corrupt mayor will pay off the thief to keep this quiet, with up to 500 gold piece a week for their silence. But eventually he'll send an assassin to make it permanent. Other NPCs may try to assassinate the thief as well, although the details vary. If the Honorable Dwarf Guard Captain is given the evidence, he'll take it to the Duke, who will grant the thief 2,000 gold pieces, several medals, and an administrative position of their choice in the Duke's kingdom. Yeah, that's right. That wasn't me misspeaking. This module thinks dukes have kingdoms. Interestingly, the player could oust the corrupt mayor and take his job, and several corrupt NPCs will be executed or flee, vowing revenge on the thief that ruined their fortunes. A bold thief might return to the river pirate and offer the evidence back to him. He'll be impressed at their chutzpah and offer the PC the guildmaster position in Whitelock, Highlock, or both, and he will deliver once his revolution is successful. Then the module abruptly ends. That's it, but I guess it did what it needed to do. Overall, this thing was a nightmare to read due to its incredibly disjointed organization. While the gaming world may owe the editor, Terry Phillips, a great debt for making Raceland Majeur such a memorable character, he was not fit to be an editor, and this pile of junk proves it. Troy Christensen had some interesting ideas and real gems scattered throughout the module, but he wrote this jumbled mess and made a number of bizarre assumptions that really harmed the player's ability to engage with the adventure. This was the worst written of any Challenge Series module, and as a result, this is the only one I didn't enjoy. It had an interesting mood, rife with paranoia and betrayal, and the player needs to be bold, cool-headed, and not a murder hobo to succeed. The risks are great, but so are the rewards. As we touched on in the Fighters Challenge, 2nd Ed had rules for training to advanced levels, but this one only mentions one NPC as a possible trainer, so we only get lip service to the concept. Unlike Clerics and Fighters Challenge, this one would be doable as a solo character were it not for Christensen's blocking finding the hideout without an NPC's help. If you make the hideout discoverable by the player, then this adventure is an excellent challenge for a clever thief. Unfortunately, in order to make this module runnable in a way that I would want to do it, I would have to reorganize, so re-edit, cut, paste, lay out the whole thing in a way to make it intelligible, to make the quests coherent. And I'm not going to bother doing that. There's already so many good adventures where I don't have to go through this pain. So I have no intention of running this in the future. Thief's Challenge is available for purchase as a PDF on DriveThruRPG, but again, Wizards of the Coast is explicitly racist towards white men. I happen to be one, so I'm not giving them any money. Perhaps look for physical copies from eBay or independent vendors, and maybe the PDF is available online somewhere. My Croat Program Observer did find one other review of this module put out by this guy wearing serial killer gloves. When he opened the episode by kvetching about how he's bad at recording, I noped out. But the Croat said it was an okay video. Apparently the serial killer gloves guy thought it was a good adventure, so maybe he can give a different perspective than me. Have you ever played this module, or have you ran it? If so, I would actually really be interested to hear how that went, so please put your thoughts in the comments below. And did you enjoy this review of Thief's Challenge? If so, I do like it when people like and subscribe, so you just find a couple of those buttons, hit those. Chef's kiss. And I thank you for your time, and that you chose to spend it with me. But as we dear friends part for now, I wish you nothing but the best. What the fuck are you doing up there? I'm gonna fucking shoot that thing down.